Let's speak to John Caudwell, who is a business leader, philanthropist, and founder of Phones for You. Hello, John. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm really, really well. And this is a rare bit of good news, of course, about the economy. Do you think that we are too gloomy about the nation's economic prospects?
No, Mark. I think it's the other way around. I think the bank are all over the place. When I was forecasting 3 million unemployed and a potential drop of up to 15% GDP, all the economic pundits were suggesting 3 or 4% drop and a few 100,000 out. Now we move down the line 4 or 5 months, and suddenly they don't think it's quite as bad as they thought it was. But where they get that information from, I don't know, because companies are bleeding to death. And to talk about the economy recovering fully by the late quarter of next year is a nonsense, because it takes years to build businesses. It takes months or weeks to destroy them, but years to build them. And there's going to be so many people unemployed. Where are the jobs going to come from? So I really, really do not understand where the Bank of England's economic forecasts are coming from. And I would be staggered if they're correct. Now, I don't want to pour gloom onto anybody's shoulders. What I want to do is talk realistically of the threats that are out there and the threats that we all face, and then have a very, very positive plan of how we deal with it. And that's where my Caudwell pandemic recovery came from. This plan is a plan to spend between 500 billion and £1 trillion over the coming few years to generate jobs over a whole wide range of measures and sectors. It starts with renewable energy, a renewable energy city where we become world experts in renewable energy, and as a consequence of that, export that renewable energy technology, both the physical products and the technical expertise, all around the world. For the unemployed young people, to put in really world-class apprenticeship schemes that last between 3 and 5 years, and to make them fully comprehensive and really develop those people significantly over that period of time using all the leading companies of the UK.
Of course, the problem we have, John, don't we, is you'll be well aware that businesses think long term, politicians think short term, and what they'll be looking for is a quick boost to the economy, which I guess investment in green energy isn't going to deliver.
No, but the problem is, Mark, you're absolutely right. They are short-term thinkers, but we desperately need long-termism here, because if all we're doing is patching up the short-term problems in the economy, that's all we will be doing. We'll have a patient, the UK economy, that's come in with a critical heart attack and needs CPR. And what we're doing is sticking plasters on a cut here and a bruised leg there. And that is necessary. So I'm not criticizing the government for that. We do need to do a lot of the measures that have been implemented by the government. But we have to have a long-term plan to get out of this. Otherwise, the UK economy is going to be in dire trouble. My estimate is that we will hemorrhage round about £200 billion a year on lost revenue to the government and increased expenses as a consequence of unemployment and welfare services and social services to those people that are out of work.
It's obviously, it's like economic quicksand, isn't it, John? Do you think that the expensive furlough scheme might have been a strategic mistake? Because you've talked about investing billions for the long-term benefit of the economy. Furlough, hardly an investment, is it? It's just giving people money.
No, I don't think it was a mistake, Mark. I do think it could have been implemented a lot better. I would have had partial furlough from day one, probably made the percentage a touch less than 80%, maybe 70%, but that's a debatable point. But I would have had partial furlough so that employers that wanted to keep their employees on for 1 day or 2 days a week could do so and declare that, and the employees could be paid the remaining 2 or 3 days. I would now continue that, because there is going to be devastation. We won't really see what that true devastation is until furlough comes to an end, until we get through all of these government measures. And then what you'll see is the true state of the economy, with mass unemployment, a dreadful, dreadful drop in GDP, and a really, really difficult set of circumstances. It's not insurmountable. It can be resolved, but we really do need to invest in the economy rather than spend lots of government money that we don't have, patching up and making do, paying people's unemployment benefit and in lost revenue to the exchequer. So we just need to be bold. We need to borrow that money, raise that money, borrow that money, and then use it incredibly wisely to create jobs. And the other areas I didn't mention where I would use that money is to attract inward investment from companies that are based overseas, try and lure them to the shores of Britain, and also in a massive infrastructural development throughout the UK on road, rails, fibre optic for internet services, and hospitals and housing. And if we do all those measures, we'll be investing a huge amount of money, but investing it wisely, but investing a huge amount of money at an interest rate that we can afford to pay back, because the interest rates are so incredibly low at the moment. On £1 trillion, if the government could borrow £1 trillion, I'm not saying they can, I'm saying it would be an objective to borrow between 500 million and £1 trillion. And if they could, the interest payment on £1 trillion would be about 20 billion. That's really, really small in the scheme of things to get the UK economy growing again.
John, what it sounds to me like you're suggesting with your model for recovery is to turn Britain into a successful business, a corporation that has, innovation within it and productivity and ideas.
That is exactly what I'm talking about, Mark. Yes, it's a business plan for the UK that says there's never been a better time to borrow. There's never been a more compelling time to borrow. And then for goodness sake, let's borrow that money and utilize it in the smartest, most clever, most focused ways to grow jobs, to grow business, to grow the economy, and to save Britain and keep the great in Britain.
Now, John, I can definitely get behind infrastructure projects because, it's always an advantage for us to be able to communicate with each other more quickly and more efficiently, and whether that's broadband and 5G, and also physical communication and rail, good roads, all the rest of it. That makes perfect sense. I wonder, though, whether big investment in the green economy, whilst coming from the right place morally, might be a bit of a gamble, a bit of a punt. And also, how can we hope to compete with nations like China in that arena?
Okay, well, let me cover that one, because that's a really interesting question and a good challenge. Firstly, I would say unless the world goes really incredibly quickly into an environmentally friendly policy, we are facing one of the biggest fiascos in the next 10 to 50 years that the world has ever faced. And I'm desperately worried about that. But parking that to one side and coming back to the COVID point, the economy desperately needs new industry. Now, if we attracted the best brains from around the world, the best businesses from around the world, maybe created this tax-free zone in the UK somewhere where these businesses could locate and build an environmental friendly city, but full of scientists and technologists to help develop that technology in a friendly environment, business friendly environment, we could be one of the greatest exporters in 5 to 10 years time of not only the products that are needed for that technology, but also the technical services and the systems. And it could be a huge, huge business in its own right. There won't be a person on the planet that doesn't think that green technology will fail as a future business if correctly run. So why shouldn't Britain really take the reins of this, really capture this moral high ground and financially viable high ground, and use it to offset some of the risks and problems of COVID, over the next 5 to 10 years.
I'm sure you're right. It sounds to me like green energy is not only fantastic from an energy independence and security point of view, but a potential economic gold rush too. Some very strong ideas there, and I hope you've got the ear of the government, John. Thank you so much for joining us. John Caudwell, business leader, philanthropist, and the founder of Phones for You.